Hello and welcome to Diamondback Truck Covers. My name is Ethan Wendell. I'm the co-founder of Diamondback Truck Covers, and we're here today to show you a little bit about our new production plant in Philipsburg, Pennsylvania. Philipsburg is a small town located about 30 minutes from State College, Pennsylvania, where Penn State University is. And Penn State University is where this company was founded. Myself and my business partner, Matt Shaverchko, we started Diamondback Truck Covers as part of a class project at Penn State. Ended up dropping out of school to pursue that class project, which turned into Diamondback Truck Covers, what we're going to show you today. The first several years of Diamondback, we started in 2003, and the first several years were really just about learning how to survive in a market where we provide the toughest, most secure, most durable truck bed cover for the beds of pickup trucks. And we sell those products to customers all over the world. We did a PCN tour back in 2009 at a different production facility here in Philipsburg, PA. And that really showed kind of the evolution of the company over the first 6 years. We were still making most of our products in a very handmade way, doing it with a lot of tools that we no longer use. We've kind of moved our production process up quite a bit. At the time, we were doing about 8 to 10 covers a day to satisfy the demand that we had then. Today we're doing about 50 to 60 on some days. And so the company has grown quite exponentially over the past several, well, I guess it would be 10 years. And so we really wanted to invite PCN back to show them where we've gone with the product and what the employees of Diamondback are doing in Philipsburg today. So this is the Diamondback Truck Covers manufacturing plant in Philipsburg, Pennsylvania. And today we're going to walk you through the process from start to finish of how we make a Diamondback truck cover, as well as how we make some of the key accessories that help our customers use our covers for all the things they do with their trucks. So Diamondback, if you're familiar with pickup trucks, there's the back end of a truck where you put your gear, your tools, your supplies. And Diamondback covers are designed to give security for the bed of the truck as well as weather protection. We make our covers out of metal, which is unique. We're one of the few companies in the world that makes a hard metal locking truck cover. Most truck covers are made out of either a fiberglass or a plastic or a vinyl. And really what you get with a metal truck cover is you get a security and a durability that is second to none. So our covers have a lifetime warranty on them. They're really designed to be things that customers can use well in excess of the life even of the trucks. And a lot of that design, where you get the durability, is in the process. And so we're going to be looking at different machines, from laser tables to press brakes that are bending and forming the metal, to the welding process, and then ultimately how the products are finished and shipped out the door. And what we're looking at here is the brand new Diamondback facility. We moved into this building in 2017 after producing in another manufacturing park for the first 13 years of the business, 14 years of the business. And when we built this manufacturing plant, and a lot of the things we're going to show you today, we really spent a lot of time trying to answer two questions. One, how can we make a plant that would help us deliver the most efficient, highest quality product to our customers? And how could we build a manufacturing plant that would reflect our care for our employees? Diamondback has a mission, and our mission statement is really to become one of the best manufacturing companies in Pennsylvania. And we define that as a place where customers love to buy from and employees love to work at. And so you're going to see a lot of things from ergonomic design that helps keep our employees safe, to the way that we've built natural light into the manufacturing plant. We've elevated the ceiling so it doesn't feel like you're in a traditional manufacturing plant. Done a lot of things to really make the place both comfortable, safe for the employees, but also provide the best quality, fastest shipped product for the end user. So Kirk Davis is our production supervisor, and Kirk is going to be walking us through the process of how a Diamondback truck cover is made, how we get the consistent quality that we need for our customers, and how we ship, hundreds of them every week all over the country to customers that are using them to seal and lock up all the gear that's in their bed. So we're going to go down and talk to Kirk Davis.
Hi, my name's Kirk Davis, and I'm the production manager here at Diamondback Truck Covers. Been really excited about having you guys here today. Like Ethan said, you guys were here about 10 years ago, and we're a much different company, still making a really cool product. So my job is to take you through the manufacturing process and show you how we make, in my opinion, the best truck cover on the market. So to really start our process, we can't build a Diamondback truck cover without our job traveler. So the purpose of the job traveler, and really the most important element of the job traveler, is the part number. Every Diamondback truck cover is made to custom fit the specific make, model, and bed length of that customer's truck. So what the job traveler does is it has a part number that is unique to that make, model, bed length. It also includes some customer information, so customer name and where this product is going. And our team really loves to see all the different places that we ship Diamondback truck cover. It just so happens it looks like we're shipping this specific cover to Finland. So we ship all across the country and also ship some covers internationally, which is really cool. So the job traveler, like I said, is really the fundamental basis of our process. Tells us what we're making, tells us some specifications on how we can make it to be tailor-made to custom fit that customer's cover. And it also tells us it's a high-level summary of the order. So any accessories or miscellaneous things that go with that product are highlighted on the job traveler. So we're at the first station in our process, which is our laser table. So our operator will take this job traveler, he'll find the part number, and the part number really directs our operator to what type of material to pull for this specific product. We're going to talk about our material here. So the name Diamondback truck covers comes from the type of material that we use. So we utilize diamond plated aluminum. It's a 3003 alloy. So you can see the diamonds that are actually in the pattern and kind of ingrained into the material. So we make 4 different products out of our aluminum: an HD, an SC, a 180, or 270. So 3 out of those 4 products utilize 0.080, 0.080 thickness aluminum, and they can handle 400 pounds on top of them. And the other type of aluminum that we utilize is 0.100 thickness, and that is for our HD model, which can handle 1,600 pounds on top of it. So we are very particular about the type of aluminum we utilize. They come from some from pre-qualified mills that go through a very rigorous qualification process. So our customers throw lots of different things at our product. They use it for lots of different things, so it has to be ready for anything. So our aluminum, like I said, it goes through some rigorous testing, both in the field and internally, to ensure that it can perform like our customers need it to perform. So various strength testing, deflection testing, things like that. And it's also tested on our bending process, which we'll see later on. We add some pretty radical hard bends to it, and it has to perform well and have some very crisp and clean bends through that bending process. So our fiber laser that's behind me is actually the first machine in our manufacturing process, and this machine has been a game changer for us. It is extremely fast and extremely efficient and extremely precise. So like I said earlier, every customer order is made to custom fit that customer's make, model, and bend length of their truck. So the laser will take the raw material that the operator will pull, and it will cut each panel out of custom specs based on programs that are preloaded into the laser. This fiber laser is a really cool machine. It utilizes a combination of both nitrogen and compressed air for the cutting process. And it's really allowed us to do some things we weren't able to before. A long time ago, when Ethan did the original tour, we were actually cutting our covers out on a shear and then utilizing a bandsaw to cut them, and then we use a router table and a plasma table, and now we're using fiber laser. So no smoke, no saws, and the best quality product that we've ever produced is coming off of this machine now, and we actually have 2 of them now, which is really cool. So our operator here is going to start the process, and how the process starts is he'll start with that job traveler that I showed you. He'll figure out what type of material he's going to pull, and then he'll pull a single sheet off of the skid. Everything that we use is 48 by 80 sheets, and depending on what we're making, there's quite a fair amount of scrap that comes from those sheets. So I'll show you later on in the process. Not only does this laser cut out the panel at the predetermined specs, but it will also cut out some studs and some functional components that we'll utilize later in the process. So the operator will load it onto the table. He'll utilize a squaring mechanism to make sure that it's square. He'll go and actually find that program that's preloaded on our network. Then he'll actually cycle the tables in and out and load that piece of raw material into the cutting chamber. So like I said before, this laser has really been a game changer for our manufacturing process. Not only does the laser cut out essentially a panel blank, it's not really taking any form yet, we'll see that later in the process. It will cut out the panel based on predetermined dimensions, but it will also cut some of the functional components, the base for the functional components that we'll use later on. It will cut the lock holes, it will cut cleat holes that we use to tie down things on top of the cover. It will cut some plate marks which show our welders where to install some of the functional components very accurately later in the process. It will also cut out some studs that we use for strength and some different things like that. So cycle times for this machine per cover, each cover has 3 table changes, and an SE, which is thinner material, gets to run a little bit faster, will take about 12 minutes. An HD, which has a little bit thicker material, will run about 16 minutes. So the next step in our manufacturing process is our sandblaster. So chances are, if you buy a Diamondback truck cover, you're going to buy our rugged black coating, excuse me. In fact, 87% of our consumer sales are for a rugged black coating. So it's a really cool process. We purchased the diamond plate aluminum with a shiny finish. And for our rugged black coating to bond to that surface, we actually have to blast it off. And that's what happens to this sandblaster. So like I said, 87% of our consumer sales get the rugged black coating. So our sandblaster is very heavily worked. So what happens is, those panel blanks that the laser cuts out, our sandblaster operator will load them into this blasting unit, and we utilize aluminum oxide blasted through a nozzle at a high rate of pressure. And this operator will blast the panel in very specific predetermined areas where it is essential that the coating sticks to. So that's what he's doing right now. This step doesn't take too long. It takes about 2 to 3 minutes per panel. And from here, we'll go to a plate roller, which we'll show you next. So we're here at our plate roller, which is the next step in our process. So like I said, our sandblaster utilizes a high pressure nozzle that blasts media out of it, creates a lot of friction, and actually warps the panel a bit. So that panel being flat is very essential to our manufacturing process from here on out. So we actually have to run the sandblasted panel through a plate roller to flatten it out. And this is a pretty good example. So we purchased material with this beautiful shining coating, but we know our customers are going to throw lots of different things at our product. So we have to make sure that the coating, our rugged black coating, bonds to it correctly. So the sandblaster takes off this shiny coating and gives it a really textured, gritty finish. And like I said, the next step is the plate roller. So what our operator will do here, he's wiped off the back side of the panel. He has predetermined settings that will make sure that this material becomes flat after he runs it through. We'll load it into the rollers, hit the pedal and run it through. While this isn't a super sophisticated step in our process, it's an extremely important one, because like I said, the next step and a lot of steps after this, it is very, very important that panel's flat so that we can manipulate it and really turn it into a Diamondback truck cover. The next stage in our manufacturing process is our bending process. We utilize 100-ton press brakes. So really, this stage is where the cover starts to take shape. So bends give the cover its profile, contribute to its strength, and also make sure that it lays properly on the bed rails, which is really important for some of the functionalities of the cover. So this process is a really cool one. It's very involved, and our operators have to be very, very technical about what they're doing. So each bend has a predetermined X and Y setting that the operators have to input into the machine that's on the far left. The X setting is the horizontal setting. It will control how deep the bend is on the panel, and the Y setting will control how far down the punch comes. So that actually dictates how severe, what angle the bend is. So on average, a Diamondback truck cover, depending on what you're buying, has anywhere between 24 and 36 bends. And the most severe bend that we add to our covers is 135 degrees. That's why it is so essential that the material we utilize behaves a certain way. It has to be a very crisp, clean bend. It can't crack or rip or tear or anything like that. So our operators are very intentional about their movements. Everything has been really engineered ergonomically. We used to do a lot of twisting and bending and things like that with the panels, which we realized over time wasn't ideal. So our operators utilize the tables that you see and really maximize their movements to ensure that they're maximizing the quality of the product and minimizing the impact that the movements really have on their body. And you'll see there's a back gauge on this machine that he keeps hitting with that product. And it's very, very essential that the material is square on that back gauge. If the bend doesn't come out straight as we intend it to, then that panel is scrapped and we have to start over. So what's happening now is the operator inputted the X and Y settings, and he's letting the back gauge cycle through to the new setting so that he can add a different bend with a different depth and a different angle. So take that piece of material. Not ready yet. Take that piece of material, push it back square to the back gauge, hit the pedal once, it'll clamp down on the material, hit the pedal a second time, which will execute that punch coming down the predetermined distance, and then he supports the panel through the bend. And like I said, about 24 to 36 times this is repeated through the process, and this is really where our covers start to take shape. We're at the next stage of our manufacturing process in the area of the shop that we call the Weld Room. And welding is super, super important to our product and how it functions. So we do two types of welding at Diamondback. One type is Tig Welding and the other type is Mig Welding. So we're actually at the Tig Welding station. So the purpose of this station, well, it serves multiple purposes. So our bending process combined with the type of material we utilize leads to some inaccuracies with our product. So there's some fabrication that happens at this stage. So what our operator does is he checks the overall dimensions, length and width of the cover to make sure it is right according to that job traveler that I showed you earlier. And then from there, he'll do some fabrication. So check the tapers. Like I said, not every Diamondback, or not every truck is a perfect rectangle, so every Diamondback has to mimic the taper of that truck bed. So the taper has to be dead on, and some other parts of the cover have to look correctly. Our gutters, which are very essential to dealing with rainfall, have to line up correctly and some different things like that. In addition, this station is super important. So you see there's some gaps here in the product. So we call these Tig corners, and this material has been intentionally left out because we have to leave it out for our cutting and our bending processes. So what the Tig Welding station does is it adds material back into the cover. So we have a Tig corner that he'll add, and we utilize Tig Welding in this station because it tends to be a much prettier weld than a Mig weld, and these are actually, this is a shiny cover, so that Tig weld is going to be exposed on the outside for the life of that product. And it's easier to span some gaps. So our operator is going to show you how he executes the steps of this process. So it's already been laid out, and he's measured, he's checked dimensions, and he's ready to execute the weld. So he's grabbing a Tig corner. He's going to size it up to the gap, see if he needs to trim it at all on a bandsaw. Look like he doesn't. He's going to take our Tig rod, which is a very specific alloy of metal designed to bond well with our metal. He will tack that Tig corner into place, and then he'll use that filler rod to span the gaps. And our operator here, it's no mistake that he is on this line. He deals with most of our shiny covers because his welds are very, very nice. You see there's some sliding and there's some flipping, but there's very little lifting. Our manufacturing processes, we're really working towards everything to be as ergonomically correct as possible. So these tables have been designed with the idea that our operators can slide the product on them. So now he's done the other side of the panel, flipped it up on the flip side, and is doing the top of the TIG corner. So the next step in our manufacturing process, which is the second step in our weld room, is our Mig Welding step. So our covers allow our customers to do more with their truck than ever before. So our cover has to be ready for anything that our customer will throw at it. So the Mig Welding step is super, super important for the functionality of the cover. And this is where we install multiple base components for some functional components that we'll install later. We also install some strength components. So I'm going to kind of go over what each component is and what it does for the cover. So the first thing is the stud. So studs give the cover strength. This is an SE model, so it only gets one stud. So the number of studs and the thickness of material that they get depends on what type of product we're making. So like I said, SE1 stud in HD, which can handle 1,600 pounds on top, would get two or three studs made out of thicker material. So studs give it strength, and we have some different components with some Diamondback lingo. We call this an RGB. It's a rod guide bracket base. It is the base for our locking mechanism. Call these BSBs, ball stud brackets, and they're the base for our shock system that raises the panels up. Some hinge face gussets adds some extra strength to where the hinge lies. And then we also add in some safety support components that we'll see for a safety arm later in the process. So our operator will set all these components up based on those plate marks and notches that we saw in the laser process. So this stud is actually placed between those notches. There are some plate marks that you can see up a little bit higher here. So our operator will follow those plate marks and the notches and a couple different specs utilizing jigs and fixtures and make sure that everything's precise. So it looks like we're ready to go ahead and start welding. Every weld has a specific look that we're going for, and the look really indicates the strength, and we want very strong welds, like I said. In addition to that, especially on our studs, each weld has a predetermined length that we want it to be. So you'll see all his welds are just about the same length, and they're going to be even in number on each side. So next up in our process is our masking and papering processes. So this is essentially a prep stage before we add our rugged black coating. So like I said, if you buy a Diamondback, chances are that you're gonna buy a rugged black Diamondback. So our rugged black coating is a very durable coating, and it is essential that we protect some of our functional components, our base functional components that we add in the previous process. So what's really involved in this step is masking some very specific areas in very specific ways to protect the coating from touching them. And then we also will grab a grinder and do some grinding where we added welds. So those welds are still shiny and kind of silky smooth, and they need to be tough and gritty so that the material can bond to it. So you'll see operator over here grind all the corners and get it ready for that next step. So this tends to be a super involved step. There are lots of different things that go into it. It can be quite tedious at masking off every single cover, but like I said, it is essential for our coating, and we do a great job of it. So we're still on our masking and coating prep line but this is really the second half of this process. So every rugged black Diamondback truck cover gets something that we call a spray over logo. So the spray over logo says Diamondback. It is really it's like a gasket product with adhesive on the back. So it actually gets applied by hand and rolled over to make sure that it sticks well, and then we'll show you the coating process later on. So from there, this panel will get flipped over, and it will move on to our papering process. So we've already masked all of the very important components of this cover. In addition to that, we do one extra protective layer to make sure that that coating doesn't get on any of the inside components. In addition to that, you see the inside of the cover is actually still shiny. It will be like that in its finished state, so it's very important that it remains shiny. So we utilize our roller bed. It actually goes up onto a flip table, and I wanted to show you this because we're really proud of it. One of our guys in-house came up with this idea on his own and built it from an idea. So it works through with our airlines, flips the panel up so that our operator can then pull paper and protect the back side of that cover. So from there, all of our panels have been protected and they're ready to be coated. So our rugged black coating is one of the coolest processes that we do. So we actually spray truck bed liner on top of our covers. So it's actually the same product that you would see in your Ford, Chevy, GMC pickup truck. If you were to go and get something like Rhino linings or Line-X, we don't use those brand names, but we use virtually the same product. It's a really cool process. So operators will lay the whole cover out flat on a table. And they essentially paint it. It's just like spraying paint, but it's a much different process than paint. So our rugged black coating actually comes as two different products, an A side and a B side, and they are combined in the head of the gun that he is utilizing to spray, and it forms this rugged black coating. So applying this coating is a pretty definite process. A weld, if you mess up, you can grind it off and restart. We get one try at putting this coating on. So we have incredible operators that do this by hand. It's a really intricate process. So what he's doing now is the base coat process. So the base coat process turns out as a shiny, smooth surface. And he's going to add some texture here in a minute. But the coolest thing about our coatings process is this product is hard virtually instantaneously. So within a couple seconds after this material is applied to the cover, it's hard and it can be touched. So he's added his base coat. He's going to assemble the cover because there are some parts that we want to protect and still have that kind of shiny, rugged black finish. And then they will assemble the cover. And next, going to add texture. So the texturing process is utilizing the exact same product that he just sprayed on the cover to add the shiny base coat. So he'll spray it up in the air, and that product will essentially rain down on top of that shiny base coat. It will bond to the base coat and cure, like I said, almost instantaneously. And this is what gives our product that kind of gritty, rugged finish. It's where the rugged black name comes from. So from the time that this panel is touched and taken into our spray booth to the time that it's ready for top coat is about 5 to 10 minutes, a very quick process. There's almost no drying time after this stage. So from here, he'll disassemble the cover, they'll put it on some rollers, and it will transition into our top coat booth. So while this coating is very durable, it is actually not UV stable. So we have to add an additional protective layer on top of it to make sure that it doesn't gray out over time. In addition to that, he was just checking the thickness of the coating. If our customer is going to throw anything at the coating, we have to make sure that it's thick enough to be able to weather the storm that they throw at it. So looks like he hit his mark there. So while this isn't part of our process quite yet, it's something that we're really, really excited about and wanted to show off as part of our tour today. So the last station that we were at was our coatings process, and we showed you our operators coating our covers by hand. And it's something that we do really well, and it's the best that we've ever done it. However, it's not the most ergonomically correct process for the operators, nor does it lead to very good, consistent quality results because of the definiteness of the coating when we add it. So this is our spray robot, which is actually installed just a few weeks ago, and we're working on getting it dialed in. I don't have a whole lot of details on how it runs. It is the exact same process as what we do when we hand coat the covers. So what will happen is this process will replace the hand spraying process, and those operators will learn to run this machine. So it's something that we're really excited about, and just wanted to show off what we're working on for the future. So at this stage in the process, our Diamondback truck cover has been cut, bent, welded, and coated. So where we are now is our finishing department, and our finishing department is where we add all of the functional components that make a Diamondback. So specifically, where we are now is in our kind of two-phase hinge process. So what happens in this section, our operator here will install the hinges on either the cab or the tail panel, and he'll utilize various jigs and fixtures to make sure that they're square. We'll add some weather strip that functions kind of as a rain deterrent to help with how our gutter handles water in a downpour. And from there, this panel will flow to hinge station number 2, and it will meet up with the center panel. The hinge station is a very important part of our process because the hinges are really the main part of the functional components of our cover. If our panels can't lift up, then they can't operate correctly. So what happens in this second portion is that our operators will install the hinge that has already been installed to the cab panel to the center panel. They will make sure that it's square based on the taper that we've seen. And they'll tighten everything up. So we use impact wrenches with some specific settings, torque settings. And they'll tighten everything down and test its functionality after they're done tightening everything down. And our hinge design is a really cool one. It's a little bit different than what you would see typically. It allows our panels to come up to 90 degrees. There's a drop-on hinge that will release at 90 degrees. Then they can take the other side, which is a typical male-female slip joint hinge. So from there, they'll flip the center panel, and the other panel for this cover is already being worked on in hinge station number 1, and those steps will be repeated a second time, and then this cover will be complete. So the next step in our finishing department is where we add even more of the functional components. We add tie-down cleats, some things that we call RGBs that I mentioned earlier, and we also add some edge trim to protect from cuts. So our cleat design is something that we're really proud of. It's something that's custom made to us, and it is designed to be very, very strong. So if you're hauling something that is 1,600 pounds on top of your cover, you gotta be able to tie it down and attach it to something that's very strong. So depending on what type of Diamondback truck cover you get, dictates how many tie-down cleats that you get. So it looks like they're working on an HD. That's why you see so many cleats. So they'll add the cleats, and then in addition to that, they'll also add RGBs, and I'll show you how the RGBs function later in the process. Then in addition to that, there are always some sharp components of the cover. We do make it out of metal. They'll add some edge trim that you'll see dangling above them here to protect the operator from any cuts or things like that that may happen. So it's important to note here that any external hardware, or any hardware that we utilize, is stainless steel. It's corrosion resistant. It ensures that there's never any rust on the cover. In addition to that, if you're buying a rugged black truck cover, your external hardware will most likely be 100% black. So usually that is a stainless steel component with a black coating that is designed to not compromise the corrosion resistance and guard against any sort of UV fading, things like that. So from there, that panel will flow down to finish station number 2, and this is where we add all of our weather strip. So the purpose of weather strip is if we do a good job manufacturing Diamondback truck cover and it lays on your bed rails properly, it should be very water resistant, watertight. So meaning water should not get in. It should protect your gear from any sort of rainfall. So what we do here is we add all of the external weather strip, and the weather strip is a very specific product that's made out of an EDPM gasket with a very, very thick adhesive on the back. We've used multiple types of adhesive in the past. Today we use some of the thickest and strongest that we can buy. It's actually designed for shear force. So shear force would be something like shutting your tailgate against the weather strip, and we utilize that on virtually all areas where weather strip is installed on the cover. So these operators will install the weather strip. They'll really focus on the corners because the corners are very important. And then they'll utilize a roller to activate the adhesive in the bond. And they'll repeat this on the cab and tail panels, and then there's some different size weather strips that we'll add to the center panel. So really the final 2 steps of our finishing process is our lock assembly and kind of final assembly process. So we're going to start with our lock process. Our locking mechanism is designed so that you have some zinc plated steel lock rods that clamp underneath of your bed rails. And this is what they look like. So what happens here is our operator will assemble the various components of the lock and the locking system and make sure that everything works properly in that lock. So we'll ream out some of the pre-cut functional areas for the lock that we saw at the laser station. He's already assembled the lock utilizing a cylinder that actually has a blank face so that anyone that's trying to get into your cover doesn't know what type of key you have. And as you can see, this is a pretty intricate process, but it's one that's very, very important to the theft proof and the security of our cover. Like we said, our covers allow our customers to do more with their truck, and they haul some pretty expensive gear in the bed of their truck. So our locking mechanism has to function very soundly to protect that gear. And how this works, the handle that he assembled actually turns 90 degrees, and when it is turned 90 degrees, it will pull these lock rods in and allow the panel to open up. If it's turned flat and flush, the lock rods will engage out and will engage underneath of the bed rails. And that's what provides a really solid, tight, theft-proof seal of the weather strip and of the cover to the truck bed. So from there, we have a final assembly process, and in the final assembly process, the whole cover, whole cover is assembled, and really we start our QC process. So we check all of the inside components, make sure everything looks good. We'll trim any excess Line-X that we have, and then we'll also assemble a thing called a safety arm. The safety arm is very essential to the function of the cover. So the cab panel faces a lot of wind resistance. Sometimes if that lock isn't locked properly, the wind might catch it, and the safety arm will guard against anything bad happening from there. So the final stage in our manufacturing process is our quality control area. So quality control is very, very important to making sure that we got both the high level details and the finer details of our cover correct. So our QC team does multiple things here. They'll check the dimensions and the dimensions of the functional components on the cover to make sure everything is correct according to that job traveler and the spec sheet that's included with that job traveler. They will also look at various aesthetic things. They'll look at the taper of the cover. They'll look at how the coating looks and make sure that our coverage is good. We'll also do some final prep and assembly with the weather strip to make sure that it meets the center panel properly and forms a nice watertight seal. And this is actually our 270 product. So most of our other 3 products have 2 panels. Our 270 product is unique in that it has 3 panels. So a lot of times the 2 panels that you see are the cab panels. They'll actually, most people will buy a bin and they'll open up to a bin that's used as a toolbox. Lots of contractors, people that work every day with their truck, buy a 270. So what they're doing now is every cover gets gas shocks attached, and the gas shocks are very similar to the ones that are used in your vehicle when you open up the back of your vehicle. So we check to make sure that we're using the right size ones, that the resistance is correct, and that they function correctly. And we'll repeat that on all of the panels that we do. And the next thing that our quality control team does is they will inspect our care box. So our care box is super important to the customer installation of the cover. Really, the cover can't be installed on your truck without these components. So they have a checklist that they'll go through to make sure that all of the kind of installation components are in this box. So things like the shocks that they just checked, the clamps, which actually clamp to the center panel and underneath the bed rails, and these are essential. They're what holds your cover onto your truck bed. And then depending on the type of product that we're making, it has different functional components based on some obstacles that the manufacturer's beds present. Different weather strip, and then an owner's kit, which includes an installation guide, an owner's manual, some cool Diamondback stickers, and various things like that. So quality control, dimensions, aesthetics, functionality, installation components, and then the final step in the process is they check the coating thickness. And I can't speak enough about how important the thickness of our coating is to the durability of our product. We've really been able to dial that in over the past few years. So the final part of the QC process is disassembly and packaging. So what our team is doing now is disassembling the cover, adding some various warning labels and kind of installation tips that we add to the hinges. And then each cover, 270 is a little bit unique. Each cover has a very intentionally engineered packaging design and process that ensures that we can get our Diamondback truck covers to the customers the first time, every time. And virtually every standard cover, we have to make some custom 270 boxes, but every standard cover will fit in a box that looks like this on a pre-made oak skid that we buy from a local supplier. And we buy oak intentionally because it tends to be the strongest and perform well in shipping. So like we've talked about throughout this process, our covers allow our customers to do more than they ever could with their truck with our product. Our accessories allow them to do even more with their truck. So we're at the very beginning stages of one of our accessories, and it's a bin. So our bin is cut from 5052 smooth plate aluminum, and it follows a very similar process to our truck covers. And so the very first stage in our accessory bin building process is the laser. And just like our truck covers, each bin is custom made to fit the specific size of that truck. So this operates very similar to how the truck covers are made. There's a program that's loaded in the laser with very specific specifications and sizes and dimensions. The operator will select what program he wants to cut based off of the job traveler that we talked about earlier. The machine will cycle the material in and out. And once it's in the cutting chamber, it will get started. So covers take anywhere from between 12 and 15 minutes to cut with multiple changes. Bins take a fraction of that. Most bins take about 5 minutes. So the laser will cut out a blank, just like it did with the cover. It'll be kind of in a unique shape, and it will take shape through our bending process. It will also cut out some holes that operate as both handles and a place for our lock rod to go so it doesn't interfere with the functionality of the cover. It'll also add some plate marks to make it easier for the operators to build later in the process. So in addition to our bins, we also make some cab protection accessories. So if our cover allows us, our customers, to do more with their truck, then we have to build some accessories that allow them to both protect their truck and continue to do more. So that's what our cab protection accessories do. So what we're building right now is called a headache rack. And the way we go about building this kind of depends on what type of product we're making. So it is made out of extruded aluminum, and it is made custom just like the bin, just like the cover, to the make, model, bed length of that cover. So utilizing the raw material, which is extruded aluminum, we'll utilize a bender. And the bender will give the cab protection item, so in this case the headache rack, it's outside dimensions, and we'll bend it to the angle that we want it to be. And from there, the operator will take that bent up piece of aluminum, add it to a jig that we have custom made based on each product. They'll tack it to some bases and weld it out. And then from there, they'll add kind of structural support components or guards or things like that to make sure that we can't put a tire or a board or something like that through the cab protection item and into the window. So just like most covers, most of our accessories are black. So this headache rack will be built at this station, completely welded out, and then it will actually go to our sandblasting units. It'll be sandblasted just like the cover and go into our coatings booth and be coated just like the cover is coated. And then from there, this accessory will flow down the exact same path as our bins, and it will be finished, QC'd. There'll be some hardware installed, some gasket tape, things like that, and then packaged, and it will either be shipped ground to a customer or we'll ship with the cover that it's mated to. So throughout the tour, we've talked about our cover's ability to bear load on top. Like we said, our SE models, 180s and 270s, can handle 400 pounds on top, and our HDs can handle 1,600 pounds. So the HDs are actually designed to hold 1,600 pounds, and often that heavy weight is either in the form of an ATV or a side-by-side. So to do that, you need a way to drive that ATV or side-by-side up on top of the cover. So we actually make ramps to do that in-house. So the first stage of the ramp building process starts at our auto saw. So just like our headache racks that you saw previously, we buy some extruded aluminum, and ramps are all pretty standard. So we're able to use an auto saw, which is exactly that, it's auto. Everything has pre-programmed sizes and cut depths and things like that. We load the material into the auto saw, we hit go, and it cuts the components that we need cut to a predetermined length to build the ramps. So we do this with angle and square tube that we will utilize to build our ramp to drive your ATV or your UTV up on top of our truck cover. So the next stage in our ramp making process is welding. We actually utilize a robot welder for this process. We've welded ramps in the past, but the consistency of the weld is very important to the strength of the ramp, and the robot is able to weld them far faster than we were previously. So we've had this robot for a couple years and it works pretty well for us. So what the operator does here is we have jigs and fixtures that house the components that were cut in the previous step. So things that we call ramp rungs, some angle, that sort of thing. So the operator will take the function, all the components of that ramp, he will load it into the jig that is built to house that ramp, and then utilizing the program for that specific ramp, he'll hit go, and the robot will do its thing. And the robot welder has really changed our ramp building process. It used to take us a very long time to make a single set of ramps, and we're able to make a set of ramps in a fraction of the time that we did previously. So just like our bins and our cab protection items, our ramps flow through our accessories finishing area as their final stages in the manufacturing process. So what happens at this stage, so the ramp has been welded and assembled. There's a bolt that holds both sides of the ramp together that you can see here. So what happens here is all the welds are checked, and sometimes they come out not dirty, but there's some soot on the welds, and we want it to be nice and shiny like the rest of the ramp. So we'll wipe the soot off the ramps. We'll apply some stickers to the outside, some warning stickers, that sort of thing, and then it will flow downhill just like the bins and the cab protection items. It will be QC'd and eventually boxed. So most ATVRs get shipped with an ATV pack. Like I said, the ATVRs that you see here, they're the ramps. They allow you to drive your ATV or your UTV up on top of the cover.
So now we've come to the end of the process where we're going to take all of the finished product, put it together, and get it ready to ship out. So Kirk walked you through actually how the product is made. But now that it's ready to go, we've got to make sure that all the right product gets to the right people. We have two different lines here at Diamondback. We have the covers line, where we're making all of the Diamondback truck covers, and then we have an accessories line where we make all of the different accessories that go with the truck covers. And so if a customer is getting a truck cover for their Ford F-150 with a cross bin and some extra tie-down cleats and maybe a set of ramps, we got to make sure all those products get to the same place. So that process starts by using the same job traveler that Kirk talked about in the beginning of the process. And so we'll look at each job traveler in order to see what products are going to this customer. So this customer is living in Rockville Center, New York, so we're going to be sending this cover up to New York. And so we're looking over the job traveler to see that they have a truck cover, they also have a bin, they also have cab protection for this as well. So they're going to bring all of those products together and band them all down to one skid and get that ready to ship out. The process of shipping product across the country is a process we've been refining for about 17 years to try to ensure that each product that gets to the customer gets there without any damage. What Clark's doing right now is he's actually putting on some end protection to ensure that no forklifts or any other packages in the shipping process are going to damage the product before it gets to our customer. So once all the product is ready to go, we'll apply banding around all of the components of the product to keep all of the product together as it ships. As Clark's doing that, I'll point out a couple of the other labels and components that help us identify certain products in the process. So this cover here is a Diamondback 270, so that tells us the style of product it is. This part number here helps us identify what truck this is going for. So this is going on a Dodge Ram 2019 to current body year, and then it's a 270 for a crew cab, 5.5-foot bed, and it's black. So that's the product that's heading out on this shipment. So our auto bander will cinch up the banding to make it tight around the product, and then it will heat it together to glue the banding together for shipment. And that's how the product gets ready to go to ship. One of the really unique things about Diamondback truck covers is that we do the majority of our business directly with the consumer. So rather than shipping items in tractor trailer loads to a distributor and then that distributor selling it through a dealer network, almost all of our covers that you see here are shipping out to an individual person somewhere in the world. So each one of these items has to be individually weighed, all of the shipping information has to be individually ordered, and then that item has to be scheduled with one of the LTL, less than load, which means a freight carrier that's going to take the products out to the people all across the country. So we work with FedEx Freight, we work with Estes, we work with many of the best LTL carriers that we can find to get the product to our customer with the fastest possible way without any damage, so that they can get it on their truck. So each one of these products, like this one's going to Oregon, this one's going to New Hampshire, you know, these ones over here are going to New York, and this one's going to Pennsylvania. We do almost all of our business in the US and Canada. We do ship some internationally. You know, we have some sales in Russia and the European Union, as well as some in South Africa and Australia, but the vast majority of our product is going to be sold here in the United States, and also up in Canada as well. So once the product is ready to go, what's going to happen is a person in the shipping department is going to print out the shipping labels. Those are going to automatically send down to the shipping dock here. We're going to get those, and we're going to take the shipping labels as well as the packing list, which tells our shipping department everything that needs to go on there. This acts as a final check with all of the product that need to be banded down. And then once we have our shipping labels and our packing list, we're going to adhere those to the packages, and then we're going to go ahead and load them in one of our trailers. And so once a trailer is fully loaded, our shipping carrier will come pick it up, take it to their distribution hub, and then they will split those shipments up at the distribution hub for transfer all over the country. All these products are ready to go, and hopefully within a couple days, everybody whose cover is in that trailer there will get their Diamondback truck cover. They'll be able to install it at their house, and they'll be ready to go, and then the process will be fully complete. Well, that concludes the tour of the Diamondback Truck Covers facility. We thank you for watching how we make the Diamondback truck cover. A lot has changed over the last 16 years. You know, we made the first cover in a trailer in State College, and now we're operating out of this 40,000 square foot facility in Philipsburg. So check back with us in 10 years. We should be in a completely different location as well. We're continuing to grow to provide product to our customers all over the country. You can check us out at diamondbackcovers.com, or if you want to call us and ask about product information, or you can come down and actually see a tour of the factory. You can find that information at 1-800-935-4002. So diamondbackcovers.com or 1-800-935-4002. Thanks again for watching, and we hope we can serve you in some capacity in the future.